If your under eye concealer looks fine when you first apply it and then half an hour later or maybe a little longer, it starts to look creased, cracked, crepey and just looks really bad, then this video is for you. I'm going to explain to you exactly why it happens, what you need to do to fix it, and all the little tips that go along with it. Now I'm just going to apply my moisturizer because I've already done my SPF this morning. So I'm just going to add some moisturizer while I'm talking to you guys because I'm going to be showing you exactly how this works. That's just my P Calm Keto cream. Now, if you are new here, welcome. I'm Nina. I'm a celebrity and professional makeup artist and a beauty educator, and I've been doing this for over 20 years. And I make everything that I share on this video very relatable and real for real life, not just for the studio. I've worked on hundreds of faces, different age groups, different skin types, so I know what I'm talking about when we're talking about problems that happen with makeup, like why things crease, especially the under eye area, because I'm in my 40s and I fully understand that skin changes as you get older and you're dealing with a lot more creases anyway, and that's what we're trying to kind of like avoid, like the look of with makeup, but it's difficult when you actually do have those creases because then everything gets enhanced very easily. So let's talk about why your eye area creases, because if you don't understand why it happens, then it's really difficult to understand how you can fix it. As I said, skin texture changes as you get older. So as you get into your 40s, your skin becomes thinner, it becomes drier, it becomes creppier, and it loses elasticity. And basically your hydration levels drop. It could be too much product. So the product that you're applying, whether it be skin prep or whether it be your actual concealer, is too much. You're applying too much of it. So it could be any of these different things that I'm going to go through or a combination of them. It could be the wrong formula. Overly matte concealers can end up looking dried out and just enhance texture and exaggerate fine lines. Overly dewy, kind of slippery formulas end up sliding and kind of like very easily slip into fine lines and make that look obvious. So I know it's a fine line to get it right. It could be your poor skin prep. So maybe you're not using an eye cream, which is leaving the area pretty dry and dehydrated. So things look exaggerated because the dryness is there. Or maybe you're using an eye cream which is way too heavy for that area. And that in itself can end up looking like being a bit more slippery and kind of making the fine lines look a little bit more exaggerated because there's too much moisture there. It could be your setting technique. It could be that you're not setting it correctly. Leaving your concealer wet on the under eye area so it's still fluid, or over setting it, can both kind of end up enhancing and exaggerating fine lines and creases. Now, I just want to add here that concealer creasing isn't always about having the creases there already. So don't get scared when you see it and you think, oh my God, I didn't realize I had those creases. It may not be the actual creasing. It could be that the concealer isn't sitting well on top. So don't just automatically assume it's because you've all of a sudden got creases, like you've all of a sudden got wrinkles or fine lines there. It happens to people who may not necessarily have those fine lines and wrinkles yet, and they're not getting that concealer sit properly and it's still creasing, and that could end up being because of the poor setting technique or any of the other things that I mentioned. So it's not just about the creasing. Now, please don't forget that if you do like this video, please hit the like button, subscribe, and hit that bell button because it means that it really helps my channel out and it doesn't cost you a thing, and I'd really appreciate it. Now let's talk about the correct prep. I haven't applied any eye cream, so I'm going to go in with an eye cream right now. Now it's really important that you find the right kind of skin prep because good concealer on the under eye area starts with good skin prep. If your under eye areas are completely dry and just overly dry, nothing's going to sit well. It's just going to end up making you look older. Use a lightweight hydrating eye cream, so something that isn't overly heavy, but something that isn't so light that it just literally disappears and there's no hydration there. So I'm using my MAC Hyper Real Serumizer Eye Treatment. Now this I think is a really nice balmy texture that works really well for the eyes, and it sits really well under eye makeup. So I put a very small amount on the tips of my fingers, and then I just pat all the way across. And I don't go too close to my lash line because you can end up blocking the tear duct that way. So go around the bone of the eye and it's naturally gonna kind of seep in anyway. So don't feel like you have to go so close. And then once I've pat it around, I then just like kind of smooth it over. So there's not like any product just kind of like sitting in kind of like bulk. It's nicely smoothed over. So now my skin on the eye area feels nice and hydrated, but it doesn't feel like it's drowning in the product, and it also feels that there's a decent amount there. I would let it absorb into the area for at least a minute before you actually move on with your concealer. You want to give it that time to just settle down. You don't want to rush into it, because that's another big mistake that people make. If your eye area is a bit puffy, then I would suggest using like a cooling gua sha. So like keep your gua sha in the fridge, or something like an ice globe that you can really kind of like put that across the eye area when you are doing your skin prep. So before you even start applying your skincare products, cool and ice your skin first. That's going to really help with the puffiness. Let's talk about color corrector, because some people do want to use color corrector, and I fully get that. I personally don't think it is a necessity, so I don't feel like you have to. If you feel like you have a little bit of dark circle, don't feel like, oh my god, I need a color corrector. Mostly you can cover it with concealer, so you're not going to need a color corrector. I am going to show you how to apply it today, just because I want you to see how I do that, but I don't personally feel like I actually need to apply color corrector, but I do want to show you guys. Now, before we move in with the color corrector, I do want to just add a primer. I'm using my Milk Hydro Grip, and I'm just going to put this all over just so that it's out of the way. And this doesn't really go on the eye area, by the way. This is just on the main areas that I feel like I need it, which is just kind of all over. And that isn't really because I actually feel that I need it there, just to correct myself. It is more so because I like that barrier between my skincare and my makeup. Now, if you were to go with your little finger and just touch, like just flick a little bit on your eye area, you'll be able to see it's nicely hydrated from that eye cream. You should feel that it's hydrated, it's supple. It shouldn't be greasy, so you shouldn't be able to like go back and forth like as if it's still got cream on it, but it also shouldn't feel dry, like it's tugging. It is just a really nice supple feel, like feeling there. That was weird what I said, a supple feeling. It just feels supple, and that's how it should be ready for your next step. Now, it depends on how dark your like dark circles are. If they are very dark and you always struggle with it when it comes to concealer, and you feel like more is never enough with concealer, then you probably need like color corrector. If you feel like you can kind of get them covered with a nice brightening concealer, then that should be fine. But don't automatically go in thinking that you need a whole load of concealer and keep piling it on, because it could be that you need a tiny bit of color corrector and then you can use less concealer. So it is a case of you kind of like, it's trial and error. It's really trying things out and seeing what works for you as well. For my skin tone, I would use a peach or salmon toned kind of color corrector, something which is more on the orangey side. The darker your dark circle, the kind of deeper you want to go with that kind of orange. Like you can go with a bright orange, like the Charlotte Tilbury one is really good to use, or you can go for the Huda Beauty one. I am going to go with the Huda Beauty color corrector. This is the Faux Filter color corrector in peach. So I'm just going to add a couple of, just 3 dots here. See how I applied it right on the groove? So it's not really going all the way up. And I'm just going to pat this in. And for my skin tone, this peach tone works pretty well. Right, there you go. You only need a small amount, because this isn't meant to cover, this is meant to neutralize. Don't forget that. It's really important that when you're working with color correctors that you understand it is not meant to cover, it's meant to neutralize. Now, the next step is choosing the right concealer for your eye area. For the under eye area, for the skin there, you do want something which is quite a flexible formula. You want something which is creamy, flexible, and easy to blend, but not too heavy and thick. You want a medium coverage, something that sets quite well itself, but not sets in the term of sets and you leave it and you don't need to do anything else to it. I mean that it doesn't move around so much. So it dries a little bit, kind of like just enough that it doesn't kind of move around too much. So that's what I mean by a concealer setting itself. So when you talk about self-setting concealers, that never really means that you can put it on and leave it and you don't need to apply powder. They're always going to move around. It definitely moves around. But what that does mean when you hear people say a self-setting concealer is that it sets pretty well in the sense it doesn't stay fluid. So the difference between when you first apply it and maybe a few minutes later is that it does self-set a little bit. Then you can go on to actually setting it with powder, and that's what's really going to keep it in place all day. If the concealer is too matte, it's going to end up looking too cakey, too dry, and going to emphasize kind of like dryness and fine lines and crepiness there. If you have a concealer which is way too radiant and glowy, then it's going to kind of slide slide all over the place and end up gathering in your creases. The sweet spot, I would say, is a concealer that moves with your skin and gives you coverage, but without the excess weight. And when I say excess weight, I'm talking about the heaviness of a concealer. I would say pick a concealer which is half a shade lighter than your skin tone so that it gives you that brightness to help brighten up the area. But you don't want anything which is too light because it can end up looking it's like when you turn up the exposure on an image, it's just gonna look way too like harsh. So you want something that's just half a shade lighter. I am gonna use my Too Faced Born This Way concealer. This is in Natural Beige. So this is like, I would say half a shade, if not less, lighter than my skin tone. And it's just a very subtle kind of brightness that it gives me. Very quickly, if you love kind of like stuff like this, like quick tips like this, head on over to my other channel, which is the beauty and fashion reviews channel on YouTube, and you're gonna find loads of stuff on there, which is like just really quick fire videos. I also cover a bit of fashion on there, so you might enjoy that. So I just wanted to very quickly let you know that. So here we go. Let's go in with the technique the right way, right? Because you obviously don't want to plaster it on. I've done this many times where I've shown you the wrong side, and obviously at the end of the day, I just want to focus on the right way to do it. If this is the way that you do your concealer going forward, it's really going to change things for you. It's going to change the way it sits, it's going to change the way it looks, and it's going to change the hassle that you have with your concealer, because I know it can be a real like frustration sometimes. Now, what we're going to be doing is applying just a little dash here. Now, you can keep that as a dot or you can use it as a dash. So like, I like to actually do it more of a dash, but we're going to keep it as a dot because I don't have any foundation on right now. I only want to focus on the eye area so that you can really kind of focus on that, because if I apply foundation everywhere, I feel like you're going to be seeing a pretty kind of like flawless finish anyway, and I want you to just see with nothing on, so it's quite raw. So we've got a little dot there. This is going to actually increase the brightness there. That dot can be as big or small as you like, but like I said, it's trial and error. So I would like maybe apply a little bit less than this if you feel that you need less. It could be that you do it and then you're like, okay, this looks a bit much for me. Tomorrow I'm going to do it again and I'm going to do it with less, but in the same technique. So please don't forget that, because this is where I feel like some people go wrong. They'll watch the video, they'll apply the exact same amount as me, and then they'll go away and try it and say that didn't work for me. Right, that must happen. I'm assuming it must happen, right? But what my point is that go away, do it in the same way. If you feel that that's too much, do it again the next day, but with less product, but with the same technique. Because the amount of product you use is going to be different person to person based on their skin type and how much makeup they can take and how much they need. Right, we've got a dot there. Now we're going to do a little flick there. Right, that's for lift. Now we're going to leave it there for around 20-30 seconds. So that, and I'm going to do this on one side first so you can really see, so that you're allowing it to kind of just marinate a little bit before we actually start blending it. Right, in the meantime, I'm going to get my Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Setting Spray. I've got my Beauty Blender here, and I'm going to spray this. Just a couple of sprays is enough. And then what we're going to do is we're going to use the tip, and we're really going to bounce this over. Focusing on that same area. See that? And then we're going to go onto this area here. And then we can start doing the whole lot. And now you're seeing I'm still bouncing. We've covered it all up. You can see the difference there. Look at that. And we've got this lift here, right? So I want you to see what this looks like without any foundation, because now you can actually see that once you've covered your dark circle and that eye area, you actually probably don't actually need as much foundation as you end up putting on to begin with. But anyway, we're gonna let that sit. The trick is let it sit now. So while that's sitting, I'm gonna go over and do the other side. So same thing. We're gonna let that sit. We're gonna spray our sponge. And this is now slowly drying, right? You've got to give it that time. It does depend on the concealer you're using as well, because it could be another concealer that actually dries a lot quicker than the Too Faced Born This Way does. So maybe you're using the Tarte Shape Tape, which I use a lot, and I love that concealer. That definitely does dry a lot quicker than the Too Faced. But if you are struggling with kind of maybe dryness, like maybe dryness is your issue for your under eye creasing, then maybe use the Too Faced concealer, because that doesn't actually dry as quick. So you might actually prefer that. So let's now go ahead and bounce this over this area. See that? We've already covered that. Now we're going to go to this flick where it's going to give us that lift. And then once we've done that, we can now go all the way across. And when I do this, I do like to go just on the side of the nose here, down, because I feel like it just brightens the area up and it spreads out the concealer so there's not just so much on my under eye area. So now can we see that? That's like really nicely kind of like covered up. Now whatever I have left on the sponge, like I can very easily just go over onto other areas. Like I feel like there's still so much you can do with whatever's on your sponge. Now what we're also going to do is just get whatever's left onto our eyelids. You only need a small amount here, and I feel like we don't actually realise until we do it last. And I feel like we don't actually realise until we put it on. Like if you use a small amount of product, you're like, actually it does really cover up the area. Okay, now the eyelids are done. Now I feel like we've got the concealer everywhere we want it. So now it's really about understanding how you set it so that it doesn't crease. Now I don't have a foundation on, so let's just add a foundation very quickly. I'm just going to use my Dior Forever foundation. So I'm just going to use a very small amount. And I've got my BK Beauty 106 brush. Just really buff it into the brush here. If you've never put foundation on top of concealer before, this is a game changer. It's basically called underpainting, and it gives you an amazing soft focused finish. So if you've never tried it, try it. I think you're gonna like it. Now, can you see I'm not really going on the under eye area? I'm just going everywhere else on the face. I'll show you what to do there. So basically you get your sponge, whatever foundation is left on the back of your hand, you're then going to basically go over. And all that's doing is just making sure it's nicely all kind of mixed together. There you go. Let's just add a very little bit of blush. I'm just using my Patrick Tart blush because I'm still obsessed with it. Just add a little bit of blush so we've got a bit of colour here before I set everything. Have you subscribed to the beautybreakfastclub.com? Because that's my online beauty community that I've had for the past couple of years, and it's been growing rapidly. We've got around 6,000 people on there now, and it's free to subscribe. You get newsletters every other day, but if you go for the paid version, that actually unlocks the entire site for you. Plus you get to join the group chat then, which is kind of like very busy. There's so many of us in that group, and what that means is with the paid version, which by the way only costs you the same as getting yourself one coffee a month, that's it, but it gives you way more because you get to obviously read all of the newsletters. It's all about beauty, mindset, wellness, health, fashion, style, real talk, stuff that people don't talk about that we need to actually discuss. And the group chat is where we actually ask each other questions, and you can ask me questions and I'll answer them for you. So yeah, please do head on over and subscribe, thebeautybreakfastclub.com. Right, this is where we're gonna set now. So you wanna get the powder that works for you. For me, I really do love the Huda Beauty Easy Bake. I'm good with that, but you pick whatever powder it is that works for you. Laura Mercier translucent setting powder in Ultra Blur is a great one, or even the Makeup by Mario Cereal Skin Soft Blur setting powder is very good too. Figure out what works for you, because obviously you might find the Huda Beauty a bit heavy for you. It isn't as fine milled as the Laura Mercier, so if you're looking for something ultra fine, go for the Laura Mercier. Now, this is the final step in setting, and this is usually where people can end up going wrong as well. Maybe they've got everything right this whole time, but this is the part that really messes it up for them, because too much powder and using the wrong type of powder can end up making the area look very aged. So you end up looking older and you're like, what just happened there? Literally within seconds. Now, what you want to do is use a puff, but if you are dealing with very mature skin or very dry skin, don't know what happened to my voice there. If you are dealing with that, then I would suggest not using a puff and using a brush only. So if you feel that no matter what you do when you press it in, it just ends up looking too heavy and like dry and cakey for you, use a brush. Now what you would do then is you'd use a brush like the Real Techniques brush, press it into the powder, and then you press it in here after you've got rid of the creases. So let me get rid of the creases first. So the first step is, let's do the eyelids first so that we can get them out of the way, right? Because you should always do the eyelids before you do the under eyes. So what we're doing is we're really getting rid of any creasing that's developed there, which inevitably it would have, because this is the one area around your eyes that will get the creasing the quickest, because your lids are always opening, like, you know, moving. So you want to make sure there's no creasing there. So get your sponge, take off the excess. You're then going to get your powder puff, or your brush, and you're going to press, right? So if you get your powder puff, you would press it like this. If you're using a brush only, you would have put it into the powder and then you would have pressed like this, right? But with the puff, you're going to get the brush and you're going to dust away all this excess powder that you see there that we've pressed in. There you go. Eyelids are nice and set, they're done. Now, when it comes to the amount of powder, again, it's trial and error, it's figuring it out. If you press it in, if you do everything I do on one day and you feel like it all looks good, and then when you do your powder, you feel like that's still too heavy for me, right, I'm gonna show you a trick after as well. Then maybe the next day do the same thing but use less powder. So you have to understand that all of this, no matter what anyone teaches you, it's about adjusting the amount of product that you're using. The technique may stay the same, but it's the amount of product that needs to be changed so that it works for you, so that you can personalize it. What I have shown you today, what I'm currently showing you, is the right technique, but it's personalized to me. And when I say that, I mean with the amount of product that I'm using. Now what you need to do is go away, do the same technique, but personalize it to you, so that you use the amount of product that is right for you. So remember that, because this is where I feel a lot of people go wrong. Now that we've done that, let's move on to the under eye area. That's the first place that we want to actually now set. Now the trick is to making sure that there's no creases throughout the day, is you want to get your tip of your sponge. You want to then look down, or you want to put your head down. I was going to say put your foot down. Put your head down and look up. And then you're going to really get into that under eye creasing, and you're basically just lightly dragging up so that you can get the product out that's sitting in that creasing. So it's actually good to let your kind of creasing develop there. This is why I left it for quite a while without setting it. I feel like people just go straight into setting, and it's really gonna benefit you so much if you just let it sit there for a while, because let those creases develop, because now you know where it's creased, you can get rid of all that excess product. Now that we've got rid of it, let's go in to the powder puff, right? So we're just gonna make sure there's not too much on it. There, we've pressed the powder in. And we've done the same kind of shape as we did with the concealer. Now, if you were going with a brush, you would dip this into the powder like so, and then you would press like this. That's what you would do, right? But what we do after we've pressed it with a puff is we just dust away this powder, the same way that we did with the actual eyelid. Under eye area is nice and set. Now, there's a couple of tips that I want to give you here, but let's actually just set the rest of the face too, because that's all just kind of sitting there. What happens if you do it and you feel like, okay, it's too much powder for me. Yep, I'll redo it again tomorrow, but I'll add less powder. So I'll do the whole thing again, same technique, but I'll add less powder to tomorrow. Now, what if today you want to sort it out though? You just want it to be wearable, it's too dry, you can't go to work like this or however. You would then get your Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless setting spray. I always get confused with the name. I don't know why, I just can't remember the name. And then what you would do is you would spray it all over, and that's gonna allow the powder to melt into your skin. And that's gonna give you a quick fix for the day. And then tomorrow you try it all again, but with less powder. And you keep going until you get the right amount. It could be if puffing, maybe that should be a word. That should be like a way to describe it. So now we're gonna do the puffing technique. That is so good. The puffing technique. Yeah, let's make that go viral, guys. Let's make that a trend. Just remember it started with me though, because I never seem to get credit for some certain things. Everyone else comes out with it, someone who's already famous. And it's like, oh my God, did you see this thing that this person invented? And in my head, I'm like, no, that was kind of going for quite a while before, but people only want to say it's that person's trend now because they're famous. which is really annoying for the normal people like me. Do you know what I mean? But anyway, yeah, so if you do see that, unless someone else has come up, like said it before me, we're puffing today. So, okay, if you do use a puff and you feel like every time you do it, it's just too much, then maybe the puff is not for you. Maybe the brush is for you. So use the Real Techniques brush to press it in and set your under eye. That could be enough for you. Now, let's talk about what happens if you are out during the day and maybe your technique hasn't been the same as mine, or you've used a bit too much product, or you know, you've used the wrong formula. It could be any one of those mistakes that I mentioned earlier to you. Let's just say something like that happens and you get creasing during the day. How do you fix it very quickly? Well, there's a way to do it, so don't panic. You're not going to have to like add more powder, and I know that that's the first thing that people do. Let's just add more powder to try and get rid of that creasing, because that's just going to make everything look really cakey. I would personally make sure you've got a mirror on you, like a small compact mirror. I was going to pull out a big one, but let's get a small compact mirror to make it relatable. Small compact mirror, where you see the creasing, I would personally suggest to keep one of those mirrors, you know, the double ones like this, but like one side is a magnifying mirror and the other is normal. It's well worth it, honestly, trust me, it is well worth it. Because look, I've got a magnifying mirror here and it's so much easier to tell. So what I would do through the day, this mirror, honestly, I start doing things that I wasn't even meant to do, because this mirror shows me so much. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't know I had that there. Okay, I've got a bit of dryness on certain areas. Yeah, if you get a magnifying mirror, what happens is you can see a lot more. So what you would do is make sure your finger is clean. You're gonna then press and kind of very slightly glide the crease so that you're smoothing out the crease. You're then gonna get a sponge. I would actually suggest getting those mini sponges from the Beauty Blender. They have little mini ones. Keep that in your bag. Then what you're gonna do is get your spray. You can also get a mini version of this. So these are always good things to keep in your makeup bag or your kit. Spray the sponge. You're then gonna dab, because that's gonna just like basically make it a little bit more fluid again. And that's just nicely gonna kind of smooth it all out. And then you can get a very small amount of powder, such as the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Finish powder, and just put a very small amount there, not a lot. I would get a very smaller, much smaller brush. Even an eyeshadow fluff brush is a really good brush to use on that area so that it keeps it small. So that is why your under eye area looks creasy during the day, and that's also how you fix it. It's all about your prep, your formula, your placement, how you're setting it, your technique, and making sure you're not piling on a whole load of product. I am super excited about the next video, so can't wait to see you on the next video. Well, you're gonna see me. I wish I could see you. But if you actually head on over to the Beauty Breakfast Club, it's a really good way for me to be able to actually see you, because we actually chat back and forth, so it's nice. So yeah, this is what I wanted to show you. I just wanted to keep it simple, just focused on the base, so that's why nothing else is done. But I really do hope that this has helped you and made you understand how you can work with your under eye creasing and how you can sort it out. There's a lot of small there's a lot of factors involved there. Like I said, there's so many different things involved that it could be. So it's about figuring out what it is. But the easiest way to figure it out is, rather than change things and try and get it the right way, is just to follow the same technique that I showed you, but adjust it, personalize it based on the same kind of same amount of product that you use. So use the amount of product that works well for your skin, and then do that and then see if that works, and then we can start knocking out other things to make sure it all sits well on you. So yeah, hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you on the next video.